Welcome to the latest episode of the More People Podcast. I'll be your host, Richard Hanwell, Managing Director for More People. I'm thrilled today to be joined by Adam Tyler.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Thank you. Adam, for our audience's benefit, would you be so kind as just to introduce yourself?
So, name's Adam Tyler. I've been in the industry, farming now for just over 15 years.
It's not the most traditional of routes, one might say.
Not conventional. Not conventional.
Talk to me how one goes from a world of insurance in the UK to farming in Israel. How did that come about?
Yeah, it's not on the menu for most people. So, I sort of finished school, went into normal work just from down in Kent. Very fortunate, found myself into the city, working and training as a Lloyd's insurance broker in the jewellers block. Spent a lot of time in Hatton Garden, going around the Diamond Bourse and doing some very strange things around there. And then I met my now ex-partner, who was Israeli, and she's from the farming background.
Okay.
So her family are real, true, traditional farmers, down in the middle of a desert, down in a place called Faran in the Negev Desert in the Jordan Valley. And there's an opportunity as a returning child to have basically some land to build a farm on. We were very young and said, let's do it. Seemed like a good idea.
How young were you then?
So I was 24. So I think we started talking about it when I was about 23. And obviously I'd visited Israel and been there on holidays and stuff. And it's like this little oasis in the middle of a desert. And I went with no experience, not knowing anything. Turned up and this new area had opened up. And there was literally 8 flags in the middle of a desert between the Jordan mountains and the mountains on the Israeli side. And the border, which was 8 meters from me, with just these flags in the ground. And I remember we got delayed a little bit because landmines or tank mines were still present. So the army had to come in and dispose of them. And you're thinking, this is not the normal way that we start farming.
Not how I visualised it.
Yeah, and I suppose, that year I think there was 5 of us who sort of came back to this Moshav village.
Okay.
And they're all from farming backgrounds. They knew what they were doing. They were building machines. And I turned up with a tractor and a back box and just took bedrock out of it for about 4 months every day, just rocks out the ground.
Wow.
And then slowly but surely started building the structures, net houses. And July the 27th, my birthday, we started planting the pepper plants. And I had no idea what I was doing.
I was going to say, how on earth did you get up to speed with it though?
This sort of leans into where I sort of want to be driving the industry particularly, is that when you arrive, yes, my ex-father-in-law is a true farmer, real old school farmer. But you get assigned a mentor.
Okay.
And I was very lucky, a guy called Iran Parat, who spoke perfect English because I didn't speak Hebrew at the time. And he just taught me how to farm. And then you make really good friends. So a genius of a friend of mine, a guy called Elad Shadmot, he could fix anything, create anything, and I broke everything. So it was a real nice combination. And you just learn through the successes, through the bad times, and that's how it was. Things were going well. It was quite positive, but the scale that we was making we wasn't big enough. And I think my insurance background was always about putting risk to reward,
of course,
putting a value to it. And then I was very fortunate, not knowing anything about soft fruit. I ended up having a conversation with Graham Clarkson and Edward Vinson. Yeah. And then I was introduced to the soft fruit world and had great training. So I had Peter Vinson, all that guidance. And Graham, with his sort of scientific background, was, really developed and sort of taught me along the way, everything from strawberries, raspberries, blueberries and blackberries, from a breeding concept. And then, I got the opportunity and I spoke with Roger at S&A, and that was the journey. So it's a bit, left field.
It is left field, but it's got to be what's made you a success story as well, right?
My English took a backward step. So I was, you found everyone wanted to talk to you in English, but it was sort of broken English.
So that became your norm.
The labour who I was very lucky to have, they came from Thailand and Laos.
Okay.
So they had sort of what we called like Thai English.
Right, yes.
Then I had this broken Hebrew, and then I was sort of coming back to the UK, see some friends, and they'd be just looking at me going like, what are you speaking? You kind of go, yeah, apologies. The vocabulary's disappeared at the moment. You can't imagine it really unless you look on the map, because you are just in the middle of nowhere. And it's fantastic. There's an expression where you say it's America for kids, because there's just complete freedom. And you do adventures out into the desert.
Wow.
You get to see some amazing sights. I mean, the best one, I think, was an early morning, and there was a pack of wolves, and I was sort of tracking them going through the desert. You don't get those experiences in Kent. To say that
not so much.
Not so much. So that was a pretty cool experience. And then again, my friend Lloyd, he grows spirulina. So in the middle of a desert, you open up what used to be a net house growing peppers, and he's built these purpose-built pools with water pushing through it, an RO system, and he's making spirulina. And you're just like, how has that happened?
How does his brain work?
But you get, because you're running obviously the farm, and it is a small scale when you compare it to the UK, you understand the stress and the pressures. You've got the supply needs, you've got the labour needs, you've got the policy, and the governing bodies that you have to be adhering to. I was fortunate that I ended up getting a role with, I suppose the equivalent of like DEFRA, but in Israel, where I was tracking for the Mediterranean fruit fly.
Okay.
So for the exports to America, my knowledge in biological control was probably further ahead than what it was in the UK at that time.
Wow. Okay.
Without knowing I was further ahead. So that was quite a useful learning experience. Netafim is obviously an Amiad, all Israeli brands. So again, not knowing, because I did know nothing about farming. It was everything I learned was in Israel. Most of it was in Hebrew.
And on the job.
The products were Hebrew product, or Israeli products, or named.
Yeah.
So when I came back to the UK, I was like, I know what I need, but I don't know how to say it in English. It's really, I know exactly what we need to do here, guys.
Now you speak broken English anyway.
And it's like, but I can only tell you in this sort of broken English. So it's been an interesting learning. But I think going back to it, I'm not trying to sound too cheesy, but it all starts by having a mentor. Having somebody who's there to teach you, show you the importance of presence in the field, the importance of getting things done on time. It wouldn't have started if I didn't have somebody who was sort of by my side, allowing me to make those mistakes, learn from those mistakes, which is the important bit. Can't keep making the same one.
But you do have to make mistakes in every career. You have to make the mistakes. But to your point there, the idea is not to make them twice. As long as mistakes made, lessons learned, fine. But you have to have the opportunity, permission almost, to make the odd mistake here and there.
I was in a very fortuitous position, so nobody else gets these opportunities. I mean, I was the only English person, I was the only non-Jewish person who's ever farmed there.
Wow.
And that's lucky, right? It was really, really lucky that I had the conversation with Graham at the time that I had that conversation, to be able to move back to the UK. But good networking.
Yes.
Knowing people, being open and talking to people.
Being curious, isn't it?
I think knowing your limitations as well. I think, and asking questions and not feeling like you know something that maybe you're not totally sure. Yeah. I think helps along the way. Yeah. And then you get to meet more people. It's even better.
There you go. So current role now, what are the challenges that you're facing at the minute?
I think the challenges are the same for everyone. I think it's so currently head grower for the Kent site down at S&A. It's a leading company. The vision and the innovation that they've been making since I've been there now 3 years, and the changes are astronomical. So from water security, for example, we've brought in ultrafiltration units, RO units. That brings a whole new dimension to how we operate, how we irrigate, and how we create feeding recipes. So all runoff is captured, goes through a multitude of different filters, gets put through the ultrafiltration unit, and then at the end of it, you've got yourself a pathogen-free, another source water that's nutrient-rich, but that nutrient obviously needs to be now blended back in and balanced with whatever feeding regime you're using, which, this has been a big learning for me on how to balance the right nutrients and get the plant in the right position. The breeding program that we have, so you see the new varieties, you learning the varieties, and I think at the core of it is this knowledge exchange. So we're part of it's called the TLC, the lady community. So that's across all of Europe. So anybody who's lucky enough to be part of that group, we're sharing knowledge. So I'm at the end of a phone, I've got another grower in Germany,
Wow.
Holland, France, Belgium, Poland, doesn't matter. We can communicate. So we're all optimizing the varieties, taking the learnings. So, and it's open. I mean, I'm sure you've been in many situations where you sit in meetings and you realise that what's being said isn't quite what's probably happening on the ground.
Yeah, once or twice. Yeah.
And it's really refreshing because you have really good conversations and you get really good learnings from it. And I think it's like a big brother type situation.
Well, you get to the future faster, don't you? Because you haven't got to make the same mistakes and you've got this group.
But it's bringing the group together. So it's bringing breeder, grower, propagator into the same room, into the same conversation, all to get the best possible results, which is ultimately best for you, isn't it?
How big is the group out of interest?
It's very big.
Right.
It's very big. The number, I couldn't even tell you the exact number, and I can tell you now I'm not the best in the group. There's a lot of better growers out there than me. But you take the learnings, don't you? And you get to meet up, you get to share your experiences, you get to share the success stories, you can explain the things that didn't work so well.
Yeah.
And I think in the current industry, you spoke about challenges. You know, we've got this potential alignment with Europe, changing in MRL regulations. Loss of actives seem to be a yearly common conversation now. So any learnings that we can gather from other growers, it means that we're in an opportunity to learn how to best implement these new ingredients.
Knowledge is key, isn't it? Talk to me about Nugen and the vision there and your impact.
You know, yearly we do these seminars and farm tours and walks, and we just saw that there's a real opportunity to the youngsters that we have. We've got some really bright individuals, not just within S&A, but across the group. Some really, truly brilliant individuals. And you think, how can we give them the best start? How can we give them exposure to parts of the industry that they wouldn't necessarily get within their current roles? So each year there's a cohort of 8 to 10 individuals who will come together and over the course of the year go on different excursions to see different businesses, learn different strategies, and try and expand their minds away from just maybe if you're just growing, but you might be just commercial or you might be just ops. So it's about bringing them together, giving them the exposure and the chance to sort of learn. But it's giving them that sort of leadership training to sort of be the next generation within their industry to really drive it forward. And I think if you're young, I think the opportunity to travel, meet new people from the same industry but slightly different walks of life.
People can learn from,
I think it's just a really good thing for them to have. I think it's a really important moment for their careers.
Yeah, and I think it's key, isn't it, to attract as many and as good younger individuals out of universities, whether they're horticulture, agriculture, produce industry specific universities, into this industry and to showcase just how many different careers there are. To your point, you could start off in commercial but then move around operations, etc., growing. But I think it is such an amazing industry with such amazing exposure to different sides of the business and travel, but we've just got to shout about it as much as possible, I guess.
And I think the more we promote it and the more we demonstrate and show, the more we'll reap the rewards of it in the future. But I mean, the whole idea is, you've got some brilliant academic minds who have done some fantastic qualifications that we spoke about earlier, sort of like Harper Adams. You have people doing the basis training. I was doing a basis course not too long ago, and it's so humbling when you're sitting around with people in the industry and they are really, really bright young individuals, and you feel amazingly inadequate next to these great minds, because you realise I learned everything from a practical side of things, and these have learnt it from the academic side of things. And I think what I'd like to try and do is, if I can bring a little bit of my practical experiences and they bring their sort of the brains to it, you're going to be able to develop them into something that far supersedes everything that we've got at the moment. And I think it's quite an exciting time for the industry, if I'm honest. There's challenges, yes.
Of course, there's always going to be,
I think there's some good things to come.
The future's in safe hands, though.
Oh, very much so. Yeah, much safer than they are at the moment. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Cheers, thank you.